everybody. I'm the Krazz from Progzilla Radio, heard live on Sundays at midnight, wee hours of the morning, and sitting next to me is Sean Garrity. Tell them about your show, Sean.
Yeah, hi everybody, I'm Sean from Progzilla Radio, and I do the show just before the Krazz here on Sunday nights between 10 and midnight UK time, and I sort of concentrate on the more melodic and symphonic side of progressive rock.
And I think he's the best warm-up man I ever had. We're here at Fusion 2022, 3.5. We made it. And sitting next to me is John Hackett from the John Hackett Band. And we're going to talk to him for a few minutes here and find out a little more about John. And brilliant set tonight, I must say. I enjoyed it immensely.
Bless you. Well, thanks very much. And it's great to be here at Fusion. And what an occasion. And isn't it great with with COVID and all the rest of it? It's been such a difficult time for everybody. So it's really great. And Steve and everybody has been able to put this on. I think we all really appreciate it, both the musicians and
that's a good
audience,
point. What have you been doing, say, for the past year and a half as we're all locked up?
Yeah. Well, obviously it's been a difficult time for so many people, I spent a lot of time during lockdown writing an album, recording a completely solo album.
Oh, nice!
Because it was difficult to work with other musicians, and so I'd begun to sort of get to grips with technology in terms of recording technique, and sort of dip my toe in the water. And I got some programs. Thought, well, now's the time to really go for it, and so I sort of learned to use recording programs and everything, and there was a lot of kind of shrieking and wailing at times. I couldn't get things to work, and I had trouble downloading this, that, and the other. But my wife's very good with technology, and so my daughters are as well. So I had tech support, which is
that's
essential. So I did an album where I sort of very egotistically, you might think, wrote and sang and played everything on it. But at the time, it was just a way of kind of keeping sane, really, just to kind of keep working.
What's the option? Phone it in, have tapes come in from everybody. There's no feeling to put it together.
You can work that way, but at that time, it just felt the right thing to do do something completely solo.
Let's talk about your background a little bit. Your brother is Steve Hackett, and
that's right. I'm the younger brother.
The good one, might I add.
I was going to say the overweight one, but he's a better shape than me, I think. But no, Steve's 5 years older than me. So I was born in 55, and so he gave me my first guitar lesson. So when I was 12, with his help, we bought a guitar from a friend of his, and he taught me to play House of the Rising Sun. Start with, minor and D and those sort of shapes, and
and I understand you had a love of the flute very early.
Yeah, well, what happened was I started as a guitarist when I was 12, up until about the age of 14 and 15. And I was really enjoying playing blues guitar, and Steve and I used to sit, because we just had a little family flat in Victoria in central London, so we used to share a bedroom, and we'd just sit there on the bed sort of, swapping licks, and playing blues guitar, taking it in turns to accompany each other and stuff. So I was a guitarist, and then in 1969, Steve took me along to the Marquee Club in Wardour Street to see a band called King Crimson. I didn't know who they were. And we sort of went down this dark stairway, and looking back on it, I don't know how they let me in when I was 14, but anyway, I got in.
If you can walk in, you can stay.
Yeah. So, and they started up with 21st Century Schizoid Man, which was just amazing. I never heard anything like it. You can imagine, age 14, you sort of,
right.
You're basically sort of pinned against the wall with it. It was incredible. And they did some other great stuff like Guitar and songs like that. And then Ian MacDonald, picked up his flute and played Talk to the Wind. And the funny thing is, I'd never, because I've spent most of my life learning to play the flute. I've really concentrated on that. It has been really nothing. But I'd never thought of taking up the flute until that very moment. And I heard Talk to the Wind, and I thought, my goodness, I love the sound of that, because he had a beautiful tone. I mean, because he's recently passed away, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It's very sad. It's a great loss.
What other influences would you say are in your music? The influences
in my music.
Yeah.
Well, a whole host of influences, really, because as I started off playing guitar, I was really into blues and trying to copy Eric Clapton and everything.
Okay.
That sort of style. And then when I got into the flute, I got some lessons at school, and I did all the school exams and everything, and studied flute and got some really good teachers. And eventually I went to university, did a music degree, and I did a lot of orchestral playing and chamber music. So really a very classical background. But when I was very fortunate because I just finished doing my degree in Sheffield when I was about 23. And Steve had just left Genesis, and he was forming his own band, and rang me up, and would I like to join his band, his new band? And what are you going to say? I mean,
He's your brother.
I'd love to.
Yeah.
No, it was absolutely great. So within a few months of leaving college, we went straight off on the road and went to Oslo and played some gigs.
Oh, nice.
And so I worked with him for quite a few years. But yeah, we always used to do a lot of music together. I mean, when he first was advertising to find other musicians, he used to put an adverts in Melody Maker,
Right.
the paper, and he got a call. I think it was Peter Gabriel that phoned him up. But anyway, Peter Gabriel and Tony Banks came to our little flat in Victoria where we used to do our strumming around and everything.
To audition you there?
And Steve had a 12-string guitar by then, and we did some flute and guitar pieces together. I mean, one of them was called The Hermit and ended up on Steve's first solo album, Voyage of the Acolyte.
Ah.
So I had the pleasure of being there when
Wow.
he did. It was
history
his
being
kind of audition, if you call it that. But,
Right.
it kind of was it in a way,
Yeah.
and it went from there. So,
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And also, you've done a lot of work with, you did some camerata work and in the past, haven't you, as well? And also ambient music as well.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we ran with my wife's help, and there was an Australian conductor and another mate of mine, and we formed a chamber orchestra, basically the Westminster Camerata, as it was. And we did some nice concerts in there. It was in a church actually on Clapham Common in South London, if you know it.
A little bit.
We were looking for a venue to play, and we were walking around, and we saw there was a sign outside, and it said the Reverend John Hackett. And we thought, oh, this must be the place. It looked like a nice show. So we went in and met the Reverend John Hackett, and he was a lovely guy. And he let us use the.
How could you refuse that?
Well, that was it. Apparently, one of his parishioners came up and said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I missed your flute concerto last Sunday," because it wasn't him; it was me.
Okay.
Yeah.
You also play a very good keyboard as well, and also bass, and so you branched out.
I mean, really, the flute has always been my main thing. I have actually been working at my keyboard playing. I mean, particularly since I did an album Another Life with the help of Nick Magnus. And my mate Nick Clabbert, who was doing lyrics for it. Nick did all the keyboard playing on that. But we did a little sort of like showcase gig just to launch it. And it ended up that I was going to try and play the keyboards for it. So I thought, well,
Try and play.
I'll give it a go. But then I kind of got a taste for it. I thought, well, why on earth haven't I been doing this the rest of the time? I've spent so much time practicing the flute.
So it sucked you in?
Why not work at your keyboard playing a bit?
Yeah.
And so I'm still very much, still working at it. I mean, I play for our local church, and I'm like the emergency keyboard player. Because some of those hymns are quite difficult. Actually,
Yeah,
you
I can imagine.
get 3 flats and 4 flats.
Yeah.
You sit there and you've got to just do that, and
So they let you loose on the church organ?
They do. I'm not on the organ yet. No, I'm only on the piano so far. I'm only on the piano. But no, it's really good.
So keyboards?
Yeah.
Flute's the primary.
Absolutely, flute has always been my main
Keyboards,
thing.
bass,
Yeah.
other
I could play a
instruments?
bit of bass. Well, other than singing, really. I mean, that was a bit of a turning point because I'd never done any singing until I was 50, and then I wrote this song called Julia, which ended up with that lockdown album I was telling you about.
Yeah.
Hyde and Bass's tune. I wrote this song called Julia, and I just did a little demo at home, just recording it and double tracking my voice. And my wife came in and said, "Oh, who's that? Sounds quite nice. I like that." And I said, "Well, it's me."
Well, we're our own worst critic anyway, we know.
Well, yeah, you say that. People can be very critical about singing, but I'm quite thick-skinned about it actually, because I remember when I first started the flute, I was rubbish. And it was only by really working at it and really training that I improved. And so it's like, I feel a bit the same, a bit singy. I'm still feeling my way with it. I'm still learning. I'm learning all the time. And, you know.
It's just another instrument.
It is really.
Yeah,
I look at it like that, you know.
Yeah. I played trumpet and I was rubbish.
Yeah.
But I started getting good. I started playing Blood, Sweat and Tears, Chicago, and stuff, which is my era.
Yeah.
And then I went to college for music. Like,
Did you? Oh, right.
I landed up getting my degree in business.
Yeah.
After the music teacher said, "What do you want to do?" I said, "I want to conduct an orchestra."
Oh, yeah.
And he says, "Well, you know how much you make doing that?" I said, Not a lot. You need to go to the business school if you want to think about making money."
I think that was excellent advice, actually. I'd say the same to any musician.
1970, that was the advice. And it was good advice.
Yeah, well,
I put down the trumpet.
It still stands, I think.
Yeah. But people telling you no, you're not good enough only makes you work harder to be better at it.
Yeah. That's a lot of truth in that.
So you have another album coming then?
Well, the next album would be a band album because with John Hackett Band, we did an album a few years back called We Are Not Alone, which was a double album that we did for the Esoteric recordings, and so it was like a studio album. Plus, they very kindly allowed us to include a live disc, which was recorded at the Classic Rock Society. So it was a double album, and it was a great first album to do. And the thing is with my band that they're all talented writers. The other guys.
Tell us about that, guys.
Very talented writers. I mean, I started working with Nick Fletcher, who's our lead guitarist. And what happened was the story was that we got to know each other. So I went to see a classical guitar recital he was doing in Sheffield because we both live in Sheffield, and I met him afterwards. And it turned out that we'd had Dave Bainbridge, who Nick had worked with, and knew that I was in Sheffield, and said, "Oh, you finally met up with John." And anyway, we got together and formed like a classical flute and guitar duet. And we played for a couple of years and doing stuff. And it sounds bizarre now, but I had no idea that Nick was such a good electric guitarist. And it was only when I was telling you a little bit about that we did this promotion concert for Another Life. And I was saying to Nick, I'm going to do these songs. I think I'm doing it on my own, but I really don't think I'm up to it, you know, with me just singing at the piano and everything. And Nick picked up a Stratocaster that belonged to my son, actually, and started playing along. And I thought, wow, I didn't know you played electric guitar. Oh, yeah. And then it kind of went on from there. And then we got together with Duncan Parsons, who is the drummer in the band.
Okay.
But he's a multi-instrumentalist. He, sings and plays bass and keyboards, and then he's had a mate called Jeremy Richardson, who they've been in school together. And because we did for this launch thing that I was thinking about, we ended up doing it as a trio with Duncan doing some percussion. And then we said, where's the bass player? We could form a band here. And so that's how.
How long ago was that?
That's how we got
I'm sorry I asked you dates, and we said we weren't going to talk about dates.
Fortunately, it's actually, Duncan told me, it's actually 6 years ago to the day, today, that we did our first gig in Sheffield.
Ah.
So the Another Life album was 2015. And it must have been, I'm trying to work this one through.
That's
Duncan told me it was 6 years since we did the actual first sort of proper gig, as a band.
So you have the synergy together that just keeps you going.
We do. Well, I mean, we all have a love of classical music. I mean, because Nick has a very successful career as a classical guitar teacher and performer. So he teaches at the university and stuff, and he's written lots of stuff that's been published around the world, So he has that classical background, which I have as well, of course.
So there's
we kind of communicate on those levels, and very similarly with with Jeremy and with Duncan, we're really quite eclectic in our tastes, which kind of comes across, I think, with the set. Today, sometimes it goes quite jazzy, sometimes it's a little bit folky. I don't know. I mean, I don't really like to have to classify music like that because it kind of restricts it, doesn't it? But it's the one thing I love about prog. If you like, it's a very broad church.
It's a big jar.
Yeah.
You can throw a lot of stuff.
How do you feel about the word prog? Because a lot of people hear prog and they think, it's going to be weirdo, it's going to be a bit strange, but it, like you say, it goes into so many different corners
Exactly.
of
I
music.
mean, you go back to King Crimson.
Yeah.
You know, the first gig that I saw. You know, I mean, they
Yeah.
had a lot of classical influences.
Yeah.
And, you know.
Even I know you've done a lot of ambient music in the past, and a lot of ambient music touches on progressive rock as
Like,
well.
Tangerine Dream.
Yeah.
Would be very ambient.
Yeah.
God, even some of the
There's,
God stuff is
There's a band we
ambient.
play a lot on Progzilla called Nova Cascade. I don't know if you've ever heard of. Very good,
Really,
progressive but ambient at the same time.
Yeah.
And there's quite a few bands going down that route.
Yeah, well, of course, with the flute, the flute kind of suits ambient because
absolutely.
I've always liked a bit of echo and
Yeah.
stick a lot of juice on it.
Yeah.
And
Now I'm
let it float
surprised.
away. You know.
I'm
so,
surprised you didn't mention saxophone at all. All the flautists I know
yeah.
land up
Well,
going to flute from saxophone.
I look back now and I think it's crazy. Why didn't I ever take out the sax? I think the fact was that I was just so concentrated on trying to do the flute.
The flute,
There
do
was-
it right.
There was so much to do. Once you get into doing like the classical repertoire, and you've got to play all the Mozart concertos and all the Vivaldi and all the Bach sonatas and all, you know, and on. And that, you know, it's pretty much a lifetime's work in itself.
You have to
Just
learn how the
try-
masters do it.
To try and
first.
and do that.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I mean, I love the sax. It's a great instrument. I wish I could play it.
Yeah, and then you get the tenor, alto, soprano,
Yeah.
bari sax if you want to get funky. But yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
I think you're the first musician I met that didn't, I don't want to say graduate, but
Yeah.
didn't.
Yeah.
I guess saxophone's a sexier instrument.
Well, I better take it out, hadn't I?
But yeah, you start all the girls in high school, the high school bands and everything. All the girls played the flute.
Really? Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm not saying anything
yeah,
now. Let me be clear. But the guys wanted the ballsy saxophone,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then they discovered the tenderness of the flute that you don't get out of saxophone unless you're
Yeah.
Dexter Gordon or somebody like that.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that you just went to the flute
Yeah.
first.
Yeah. Just,
Absolutely brilliant. So, what gigs have you got lined up in the next few months, John?
well, we're doing. You've stumped me with.
We said
Oh,
we
you
wouldn't-
can
we
cheat.
said we wouldn't sort of dates, but
You you
But, any,
you're going
have you got a
live. We've got
tour
the New
or-
Day Festival coming up. We've got
Yeah.
Going to Send.
you're doing with Sanders.
And
That's next soon, isn't it?
yeah, Going
Yeah.
to Send.
Ah, now I got to come back for another show.
My brain is a bit gone actually. It's
Don't
been a
worry
bit-
about it.
No, we're doing some gigs with Joanne Harris. Who's got a prog band. We've
Yeah.
got Leeds 7.
Yeah.
We're back at the musician in Leicester.
Yeah.
Kenty Spires. Sorry, I'm just trying to process this.
And I guess this
No,
will be on your
um,
website. People
It
want
Well,
is, of course.
and that's what I was
Yeah.
going to say.
It is, yeah.
If you want information, John has a website, and why don't you tell
well, the
the
John
audience?
Hackett Band Facebook page is
Yeah.
the best place to get information.
Brilliant.
And if they were interested in buying any music, Bandcamp, are you on Bandcamp or?
The Lockdown album I did, Piper, is on Bandcamp. Other than that, our website, it's johnhackett.com.
That's an easy one. I can remember that.
JohnHackett.com. Yeah, that's keep it easy for me. But yeah, all the albums are available on there. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Sean.
Thank
Yes.
you. It's a pleasure, guys. Thanks so
What a
much.
great-
And
Thank you
thanks
so much.
to Steve
And
for
Steve.
once again.
Thanks for inviting us, Steve.
He's
No
the
problem.
cameraman that people don't know is
Thank
right
you.
behind there, and he's put together a most fabulous and spectacular lineup. Yesterday was brilliant. Today's as brilliant, and just it keeps going and going. And we appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
And
It's really nice to
if
meet
you ever are in the States, in California, I'll see you coming around. I'll get in touch with you.
That would be lovely.
And we'll go out for a pint, not a 12-ounce little beer that we drink in America. Thank you so much, John.
Cheers.
And we'll go back to the Fusion show.
Okay, thanks.